Have you ever been there, staring at the ceiling at 2 in the morning, your mind just racing while the whole world is quiet? Well, if that sounds familiar, this explainer is definitely for you. We're about to go on a little journey to figure out why so many of us are struggling with sleep, and maybe, just maybe, rediscover a much simpler way to rest.
You know, the source for this explainer kicks things off with this really beautiful thought, that deep sleep isn't just about rest in your body. It's the stitch, that tiny thread that holds our waking life and our dream life together, keeping the whole fabric of who we are from completely unraveling.
So to really get this, we're introduced to this character, Anirudh. He lives right in the heart of a big, bustling city. And his world, let's be honest, the world for so many of us, is just filled with this constant, non-stop noise.
And his reality? It's probably going to sound pretty familiar. The deadlines, the emails, the meetings. They don't just stop when he clocks out. Nope, they follow him right home, right into bed. That's when the endless scroll on his phone starts, that desperate search for a distraction. But all the while, thoughts about loan payments and that big presentation tomorrow just keep getting louder and louder. For him, the night is just another battlefield.
And this is where you see this huge contrast, right? On one side, you've got the noise of his life now, the pings, the traffic, the constant anxiety. But then there's this other echo, a memory from his childhood, sleeping soundly in his mother's lap, with just the quiet light of a lantern and the sound of crickets. And the biggest difference between then and now? One word: trust. Effortless trust.
So this brings us to the big question, doesn't it? Anirudh's problem isn't some rare condition. If falling asleep is supposed to be as natural as breathing, then why on earth have we turned it into this daily struggle? Why is it another thing on our to-do list that we can fail at?
The answer for Anirudh, it turns out, isn't going to come from some new sleep-tracking gadget or a productivity hack. No, it comes from a feeling he'd long forgotten, a journey that takes him back to the source of that childhood memory, back to that effortless rest.
So the breaking point finally comes. And it comes, as it so often does, in the form of total burnout. The sleeplessness is catching up to him. His boss basically tells him, dude, take a break. And at his wife's suggestion, they decide to just escape the city and head back to his family's village, a place he hasn't been to in years.
Now, it's on the train ride there that his wife points out something incredibly profound. She's watching their kids just doze off without a single care in the world. And she says, they sleep so well because they have total trust. They trust that they are safe and that they're being looked after. And that's the first big clue. Maybe the whole problem isn't about controlling our sleep, but about surrendering to it.
Okay, so this is where things really start to shift. In the quiet of the village, Anirudh gets these two incredible pieces of wisdom from two very different people, his own father and the local night guard.
First up is the night guard, Rafiq, who gives him this really simple but powerful way to reframe things. He says, sleep isn't some prize you win or something you grab, it's something you allow to happen. Just that act of giving yourself permission to rest, of literally telling yourself, hey, I've got this, I can handle tomorrow. Well, that's the first step.
And then his father offers the second piece of wisdom, using this amazing metaphor. He compares the burdens of work to a heavy yoke on an ox. Yeah, you need it to do the work during the day, but you have to consciously take it off at night. If you try to carry that weight to bed with you, eventually it's going to break you.
And what's so great is that this amazing advice doesn't just hang in the air as a nice idea. Nope. And Ruth's father shows him how to turn it into a simple, real ritual he can do every single night.
He introduces him to what he calls the Chintaputi, which basically just means the worry book. And it's nothing fancy, just a simple notebook. But it's a tool to perform this really powerful mental offloading exercise right before you go to sleep.
So the ritual itself, super simple. It's a 3-step process. First, you start with positivity. Just think of 3 good things that happened that day. Second, you externalize the anxiety. You physically write down your top 3 worries. Get them out of your head and onto the paper. And then the final and most crucial step, you consciously let them go for the night. You tell yourself, this is for tomorrow, not for tonight.
And you know what? The effect is immediate. For the first time in years, just by giving his worries a physical home that wasn't inside his own head, Anirudh sleeps. And I mean, he really sleeps, deeply. He even dreams again, not about work but about being a kid. The thing actually works.
But, okay, let's be real. Finding peace in a sleepy little village is one thing. The real test, the real challenge, is whether he can bring that quiet, that silence, back with him into the chaos of the city.
So when he gets back, he doesn't just all into old habits. No way. He builds a whole system to protect this peace he's found. The phone, it goes into a box after work.
Screens are totally banned from the dinner table. And that nightly worry book ritual, it becomes absolutely non-negotiable. And get this, he doesn't stop at home. He realizes this isn't just his problem, it's a cultural problem. So he goes to his office and proposes a new rule, a silent Sunday, where all work communication just stops at 6 p.m. No emails, no messages. The whole team is encouraged to truly, properly disconnect.
Now, at first, some people were skeptical, but the results? You just couldn't argue with them. With a team that was actually rested and recharged, costly mistakes started going down, and morale? Well, that went way up. Turns out, a well-rested team is a much better team.
But the real impact, the really human impact, came when one of his colleagues said something to him he'd never forget. He just said, "I saw dreams again after years." And that just proved it. This wasn't about productivity. It was about getting back something essential that our always-on work culture had stolen.
So, what's the big takeaway from all of this? The story is really telling us that deep, restful sleep isn't some selfish luxury. It's actually a public good. Think about it. When we're rested, we're better partners, better parents, better colleagues. A whole community that values rest is a stronger, healthier, and way more resilient community.
And let's end on this final, powerful thought from Anirudh's diary. He completely reframes what sleep is. It's not an escape from the pressures of life anymore. Instead, he says, it's a return. It's a nightly homecoming, a return to the quiet, centered person you really are, so you're ready to face the world again in the morning. A pretty powerful idea to sleep on.
Join us as we go beyond the book, exploring the wisdom within. Subscribe for deeper dives.